Hi, everybody. My name is Vic Fedeli, and I'm going to be chatting with you for the next few minutes. Thank you, Catherine. Where are you? Thank you, Catherine. It's great to see you again. This is a really great place for you to be. You're shining here, and it's nice to see you again tonight and welcoming everybody, or this morning and welcoming everybody. It's a pleasure to join you here today for the 18th Annual Toronto Global Forum. It's hosted in partnership with the International Economic Forum of the Americas. Today's event is an opportunity for industry and industrial partners to come together to strengthen relationships, forge new ones, and chart the course ahead. As you will soon hear from this morning's panelists, there is truly no better place for discussions about innovation, opportunity, and the electrification of mobility to unfold than right here in Ontario. So we have a little bit of a journey I want to take you on. And it started, this is not an election speech, but it is a little bit election-y sounding, because when we took office in 2018, we realized our auto sector was in real decline. And much like Australia, we were both kind of going over the edge. Australia bottomed out. They're out of the auto business. But Ontario and Premier Ford decided that we would save the auto sector. And we crafted a plan called Driving Prosperity. And that plan included going and visiting each and every one of the OEMs, Ford and GM, Stellantis, Toyota, Honda, asking them what's wrong, what needs to happen, what's wrong in Ontario that you're all leaving. They all told us the same thing. The cost of doing business in Ontario is too high. And so we set out a plan called Driving Prosperity to lower the cost of doing business. Now, I can go through all the details with you, just like we did months later with Ford and GM and so on. But the bottom line is we were able to reduce the cost of doing business in Ontario by a very bold $8 billion a year through lower taxes to business. Primarily, the workers' compensation, what we call WSIB, was so overstuffed with cash that it was beyond any financial requirement, beyond any moral requirement. And so we reduced the WSIB payments, not the benefits, but we reduced those payments by 50%. That's $2.5 billion lower WSIB payments permanently in Ontario. Then we put in an accelerated capital cost, so you could write off the cost of your equipment in year. That saved $1 billion a year. And this went on and so forth. We didn't put in any of the new taxes that were scheduled for January 1. That's almost $1 billion. The bottom line is we've lowered the cost of business permanently, annually in Ontario by $8 billion. And I'll get back to that in a minute and let you know how that all worked out. But it took a lot of shoe leather and a lot of elbow grease. And we visited all of these companies again and presented this new financial plan, and each and every one of those companies jumped in. And then we took that show on the road around the world. And it was fascinating because a lot of this happened just pre-COVID, and a big bunch of it happened post-COVID. But a whole lot of Zoom and Teams meetings, all new to us at the time, during COVID. And imagine trying to do multi-billion-dollar deals with people you've never met exactly halfway around the world. It was fascinating, but we talked to them about our talent. Think about this for a second. When you think about why Ontario, J.D. Power named Toyota the #1 auto manufacturer in the world. Cambridge, Toyota Cambridge, the #1 auto manufacturer in the world. Not the #1 Toyota plant, the #1 automaker. There are thousands, by the way, of auto plants around the world. And that told people we know how to make things here in Ontario. And it gave us that strength. We have the land, the service land. We have the energy, as you'll hear, and you'll see Minister Lecce later today. The energy is here to do all these things that we want to do. But quite frankly, we have the ecosystem. So as COVID ended and we went around the world, companies would say, COVID's over, not really over. Russia's illegal war in the Ukraine, this was before Israel. They would say China, the China question. It's like a big elephant in the room. They talked about the broken supply chains, and they said, there's a lot of turmoil here in the world. We're having a hell of a time. But they look across the ocean, and I'm dead serious. This is from 20 countries we were in, 19 countries we were in this year alone, all said the same thing, no matter which business we went to, almost unprompted. That we look across the ocean and we see this bright light in Ontario, and we see the things that are happening there. And we know that we can count on Ontario. It's reliable, it's stable, it's dependable, it's predictable. It's almost boring in a good sense of the word. And then they look across the border and they say it's also safe. And they make their bets in Ontario. And so when Reuters in 2019, when Reuters said this EV revolution is going to kick off, and $300 billion will be invested around the world, zero of it was planned for Canada, which ostensibly is Ontario, where all the autos are made. That was a very alarming, a very loud alarm bell for the 100,000 workers in the auto sector. And so when we stepped in, imagine this now, we're at zero. Today, we've landed $44 billion in investment from around the world, $44 billion from zero. And we're on our way to hit 50, 52 in the near future. This is this remarkable turnaround that's happened here in Ontario. The $8 billion haircut that we take every year. Think about this now. You're a $150 billion a year company. You're reducing taxes by $8 billion a year. Two things happened. Number one, businesses reacted positively and hired 850,000 new workers since we were elected in 2018. That's an unprecedented number in a short period of time. So not only did they put more than 800,000 people to work, but our revenue went from $150 billion, taking an $8 billion haircut every year. This morning, our revenue was $214 billion. So you could imagine that lower taxes increased our revenue, and that's our philosophy. So that's the end of my political sort of speech on low taxes create wealth and more revenue. But it's not the end of the story, because of that increase in employment, think about these two statistics I'm going to throw at you. Number one, in 2023, to show you the power of what's happening here in Ontario, in 2023, Ontario created more manufacturing jobs than all 50 US states combined. That's what's happening in Ontario. That's the message that we're here to deliver to you today. $44 billion in auto today. That compares to all of the US in the same 4-year period landed $123 billion. So we're at about a third of the US in our 15 million population province. It's a spectacular comparison. I'll give you one more comparison, then I'll stop and get on with the speech that they've provided me to read here today. Think about as you drive around town and you see all those cranes in Toronto, in the GTHA. Think about that. There are 210 active construction cranes in Toronto. Why would I tell you that? It's really interesting because there has never been another North American city with more than 60 cranes ever. And in fact, Toronto has more cranes working today than every major North American city combined. The next highest is 35. It's amazing what's happening here in Toronto, right under our feet. So there's lots happening in the manufacturing sector, and now we'll turn our attention to Niagara. Over the last 4 years, our government has helped to attract nearly $3 billion to this region from more than 20 companies, creating over 900 good-paying jobs. In addition to benefiting from Niagara's historical strengths in manufacturing, companies who invest in this region also gain access to one of Canada's designated foreign trade zone points, offering unparalleled access to the United States. And through our combined and really wonderful experience in landing EV battery supply chain investments, we understand firsthand how important it is to be investment ready in the competitive North American global direct investment landscape, which is why our combined white glove service approach to investment attraction includes investment ready sites serviced with electricity, water, nearby access to road and rail transport, as well as access to the top universities and world-class talent needed to drive the innovation of tomorrow today. When, you'll hear more about them later, but when Asahi Kasei announced their investment of approximately $1.6 billion to build an EV battery separator plant in Port Colborne, this decision was a testament to the whole thriving automotive ecosystem. By trusting Ontario as a partner in their success, Asahi Kasei project will turn Niagara region into an EV center and play an important role in bringing economic growth to the local community while supporting the province and the country. And as we look to the future, flagship initiatives like OVIN, the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network, will continue to play a key role in reinforcing Ontario's position as the North American leader in advanced automotive technology and mobility solutions. And we are the North American leader. Remember, Reuters told us there'd be zero in Canada? Last year, Bloomberg came out and announced Canada, ostensibly Ontario, where the autos are built, Canada is now the #1 global supply chain in the world. That is where we went from zero to #1, surpassing China for the very first time ever, bumping them off that #1 spot. That's a testament to what's happening in Niagara. That's a testament to what's happening all around Ontario as we have become this automotive technology and smart mobility solution destination. OVIN invested over $56 million to drive innovation across the province's mobility sector. They've supported over 730 small and medium-sized enterprises. They've leveraged over $850 million in private sector investments, and they've created over 6,100 jobs. And by continuing to work together to nurture homegrown talent, we'll leverage our province's unique advantage and Niagara's especially unique advantage to keep driving the electrification of mobility. So to everybody who's been part of this revolution, we say thank you, and especially to our great friends in Niagara who pulled out all stops. I've never seen a team get together, Jim, never seen a team get together like you, your mayors, your business community, how they all pull together to win that particular piece of business, and many, many more. So I'll leave you with one thought. Last year, 137 companies from around the world located in Ontario, they invested $11 billion and hired 12,200 people. We're going to do that again this year, and thanks to Niagara, we're going to do it even greater. Thank you. Jim Bradley. He'll be more formally introduced in a moment, but I want to bring up Jim Bradley, the regional chair of Niagara Region. It's all yours, buddy.
Well, thank you very much to my good friend Vic Fedeli for that very kind and mercifully brief introduction this morning. Always delighted to share the platform with him on any occasion. We're always happy to welcome him to the Regional Municipality of Niagara because he always comes with good news. It's a privilege to be here today at the Toronto Global Economic Forum to open this important panel on Niagara's vision, powering foreign direct investment through the electrification of mobility. I'm honored to be joined by such esteemed leaders, including Minister Fedeli, to whom I made reference, Sam Mills, Paul Veldman, Takeshi Matsunaga, and Raed Kadri. all distinguished individuals, all who play a very significant role in the economy. The fact that we're all here today is significant in itself, but we in Niagara are delighted that we have so many people here today who'll be hearing about what has been happening in our part of the province, our part of the country, our part of the world. This forum could not come at a more critical time for Niagara and Canada as a whole. As global markets evolve, we face an urgent imperative, advancing both economic growth and sustainable environment. The electrification of mobility is central to this vision, and Niagara is ready to lead the charge. Niagara's key advantages, the prime location, skilled workforce, and strong infrastructure, make it an ideal place for investment and innovation. These advantages help secure foreign direct investment and drive the growth of clean technologies like electric vehicle manufacturing and critical materials supply chains. The recent $1.6 billion investment by Asahi Kasei in Port Colborne is a shining example of what happens when we combine our region's strengths with global partnerships. Asahi Kasei's new battery separator plant will not only anchor our local EV ecosystem, but also contribute significantly to Canada's position as a global leader in clean tech manufacturing. This investment, and others like it, is more than just a boost to our economy. It's a transformation of our region's industrial landscape. We are creating jobs that will sustain families for generations, energizing local businesses, and breathing new life into our communities. Collaboration is key. In Niagara, we've built strong partnerships across all levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal, and with the private sector. These relationships have allowed us to secure investments that will benefit not just Niagara, but indeed all of Canada. The integration of public and private efforts has established the Niagara region as a cornerstone of the clean energy future. Looking ahead, we know that global competition for investment is fierce. We are ready to rise to the challenge. Niagara's vision for the future focuses on innovation, sustainability, and resilience. We are committed to creating an ecosystem that not only attracts world-leading companies, but also fosters innovation and growth in clean mobility. As we move into this new era, we must continue to remove barriers, invest in our people, and leverage our strengths to stay competitive. The opportunities are vast, whether it's further developing the EV value chain, deepening our research capabilities, or enhancing our green energy infrastructure. The future of Niagara is bright, and it's electric. We're not just talking about cars or batteries. We're talking about creating a thriving, sustainable economy that benefits every corner of our region, from large manufacturers to small family-owned businesses. With that, I want to thank all of you for your participation today and for your shared commitment to advancing the global clean economy. Together, we can power a prosperous future, not only for Niagara, but for all of Canada. Now I'll turn it over to the distinguished panel who will provide more insights into the exciting opportunities and challenges that lie ahead in this transformative journey. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to take an opportunity to thank Minister Fedeli for setting the tone. Minister Fedeli is knocking on doors all over the world. And as you guys can see, as everybody can see in this province, the numbers speak for themselves. Industry has responded with billions of dollars of new investments and jobs. So thank you very much, Minister Fedeli. Let's give a shout out to Minister Fedeli again for his tireless efforts for all his investors seeing. He set the tone for our province's economy, and he set the tone for our conversation here today. And our esteemed panelists will talk a little bit more about how we're getting to that, to achieving this vision, and what we have still to accomplish. So we're talking about the province. Let's talk about the Niagara region. That's what we're here to do, and how other regions can collaborate to continue attracting investments across our province. As we get to start this conversation started on the automotive and EV investments, I'd like to take a moment to look back at where we were just a few years ago, and you heard the minister talk about that. For instance, initiatives like the Ontario Vehicle Innovation Network were born out of a fragmented ecosystem. And that's really part of the story of Ontario. It's part of the story that we tell collectively across the world, and which is helping us and is really fighting for Ontario and getting people to make investments in our provinces. Companies looking to make foreign direct investments were unsure where to go, how to make this happen. And since then, the province put out Driving Prosperity. Minister Fedeli put out Driving Prosperity. We're executing on Driving Prosperity. Oven is part of Driving Prosperity, and it's a very well thought out, coordinated, and effective, as you can see, plan. So as we look to the future, and I want to ask our panelists here, as we look to the future, how can we sustain this momentum? How can jurisdictions such as the Niagara region and other regions work together and leverage each other's strengths to continue attracting investments? I'll start with BMI.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Maybe for the audience, a little bit about who BMI is. We are BMI stands for technically Brothers Marketing Inc. And ultimately, that's what we are, three brothers. I'm proud to have my brother Justice and John in the crowd. I'm the youngest of the three. And we are a family business. Those are our ethos. That's how we started in business some 20 years ago. We are an immigrant family out of the Netherlands, and we started in landscape construction. It was a wheelbarrow, a pickup truck, and the three of us, and we were going to make a real dent into the landscape industry. And we're very, very proud today to have a blossoming landscape construction and property maintenance company that services the automotive sector in Toyota, for Toyota in Woodstock, Ontario. And we've done so over 15 years. So we're very proud of that and that business. It's a healthy business in Ontario. From there, we moved into industrial development. Over a period of a decade, starting in 2012, we acquired our first paper mill in Sault Ste. Marie, and that evolved over the years to now being the single largest holder of idled paper mills in the province of Ontario. The downturn of that economy, obviously, loss of jobs. So we have to be light on our feet and creative on how we can re-energize and reprogram those assets. They all have backbone infrastructure, power, big water, lots of space. And so that's really where we came from. Again, legally speaking, Brothers Marketing Inc. We took that, and our marketing team collaborated with us and pulled that apart a little bit and said, what could BMI stand for? And for us, that's betterment, mobilization, and impact. So betterment, I think, is an ethos we share with our friends, that there's always a better after everything you do. So it's never good enough, and we're always driving and striving for improvement. And so I think we share that ethos, and we very quickly came to know that we share that ethos with our friends, and certainly we learned that from our friends at Toyota as well. Mobilization, I think I want to point out, and it speaks to the success in Niagara, that's part of what we do. We incubate ideas. There's a gentleman I'm going to point out, Eric Chow. I don't necessarily see him. But all of this started, at least for us, in a meeting at the PDAC, what we call BMI After Party. We've been doing that for a few years. It's not as crazy as it sounds. And Justice, my brother, and Eric met and said, hey, there's this opportunity for landing a significant investment in Niagara. You guys should look into it. Well, if you tell my brother Justice to go look into something, watch out, it doesn't take long. And he had spun up a task force and made phone calls and met with yourselves very, very quickly and said, well, no matter what, you're going to have to move to Port Colborne. And it so happened that our part of that obviously was having a piece of land to make that a reality. So mobilization, the incubation of an idea, that's what we're all about. And I think we found an amazing team through Eric Chow in Niagara to get this initiative, this program, this project off the ground. Lastly, impact, and then I'll turn it back to you. We're all about making impact. And I believe, as Minister Fedeli said so very eloquently, what an impact he's made and the province has made, I think we're just at the beginning of that impact. We call something the critical mineral corridor, what we call connecting the north to the south, meaning the mining sector of Ontario to the EV sector. And that's something we are very bullish on. I think it's a once in a century opportunity, and that we can make generational impact. We see that in our family business. We hope our kids pick up the baton. Let's see how that goes. They're too young yet to make that determination. But we believe that this project is about generational impact. So sorry for stealing the time, but just wanted to set some context for who BMI is and why we're here and how we're involved.
Well, you answered the question because it was how do regions work together? How do regions support the attraction of investment? And you really just set the stage. It's all the things that you said. It's mobilization. It's getting your ducks in a row. It's really going after the opportunity and making the opportunity happen in your region. And so that it was perfect the way you set the tone. And so now we're talking about the investment, right? So we go to Asahi Kasei to talk a little bit, maybe do an introduction and talk about maybe the key enablers behind why Niagara, why Ontario, and how that ability to attract FDI. And in the last few years, the province, including Niagara region, has seen an unprecedented increase in automotive investments, as we've talked about, as we continue to talk about, and as you heard from the minister, will continue to happen at least till the end of the year and on. And that's in EVs, that's in batteries, that's in supply chain to fuel batteries. That includes your $1.56 billion investment to build a new wet process separator manufacturing facility in Port Colborne. While initiatives like Invest Ontario and Ovens Going Global are key tools in identifying potential foreign direct investments, what key enablers lie behind the region's capacity to attract foreign direct investment? What were the key enablers that brought you to Niagara and, of course, to Ontario?
It's a great question. For us, we're a Japanese company, which means we are very deliberate and thoughtful in what we do. We tend to take time to make decisions. We arrived in Canada July of 2023. Time was not our friend, and we had to make a decision fast. So Minister Fedeli described white glove service. We tend to think of it more like Ontario has a machine and they're ready to go. The difference is it's a machine with a heart. There's more to it than just the process. And as we talk about ethos and the way we think about the world at Asahi Kasei, we are about the betterment of life and living for the people on the planet. And so you rarely get an opportunity to meet a family who's aligned with that vision, to meet a region that operates and acts in that way. And top to bottom, between all layers of government, there was an alignment on making this happen. We already gave a shout out to Eric. I'm going to do one more to Eric Chow, bringing everything together and trying to keep all the personalities right and keep everything aligned and being sort of the living embodiment of what we wanted to be part of. It was very easy, actually, to make the determination to come to Ontario, to call Port Colborne home, and to really integrate into the community. We're excited about what that means for the families and people who live in the region, and what it means for our company over the next 100 years, because we are a long-term thinker and a long-term visionary about changing the planet and leaving something better for the generations that follow us. So we're very excited about how that all worked. And to the team that made that a reality, we are eternally grateful.
That's great. I mean, it's great to hear all of that. It's great to hear that that's the feeling you got when you came to Ontario. It's the feeling that you continue to have while you're in Ontario, and it's hopefully the feeling that will help you continue to expand in Ontario. In follow-up to that question, and go to the Consul-General of Japan regarding Ontario and Japan's collaboration, specifically why Japanese companies, and we're seeing a lot of that. We've seen Asahi Kasei, see Honda, and I'm sure many more to come. And that's a lot to do with a great relationship that we have, the partnership, the collaboration. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that specifically, where you're seeing how the collaboration works and why it's driving companies to come to Ontario, to be a part of Ontario's global ecosystem?
Thank you very much. Today, I'm very much thrilled to have this opportunity. Thank you very much for having me. And it is also very great to have this opportunity to greet again Minister Fedeli and Chair Bradley and Mr. Mills and other colleagues today. Thank you very much. As indicated and suggested, I'd like to look at the bilateral context. And as a matter of fact, the bilateral relationship between Japan and Canada has always been amicable and wonderful, gorgeous bilateral relationship. But I'd like to hasten to add that there are many things building on positively. And in my observation, the bilateral relationship is now ratcheting up to an even higher plane. Why? Because there are many reasons, one of which being the two countries share the fundamental values, such as genuine democracy, respect for the fundamental human rights, and also both countries pay high respect to the so-called the principle of rule of law, both domestically and internationally. These shared fundamental values lay the fundamental background on which we build our bilateral relationship further. And of course, we are increasingly looking at the same picture with respect to the international geopolitical and strategic landscape that is also working very positively toward building further our bilateral relationship. For example, in recent years, the government of Canada is looking at the Indo-Pacific region. They have recently published the strategy in that regard. That is wonderful. And we are dialoguing in that respect too. And most importantly, we are sharing the critical economic interests. I arrived at the end of January this year, and I spent the previous 3.5 years in Moscow, Russia. In recent years, our bilateral relationship with Russia is becoming a little bit precarious for obvious reasons. And immediately after the outbreak of hostilities in Ukraine, we, together with like-minded countries, including Canada, started to apply the severest economic sanctions. But the fact of the reality is that, unlike Canada, Japan is a very resource-scarce country, whereas we import large volume of mineral resources, energy resources, including natural gas. As you may be aware, Japan still imports about 9 or 10% of natural gas in the form of LNG from Russia. That is a fact of the reality. But we, immediately after the outbreak of hostilities, jointly with like-minded countries, including Canada, the government of Japan committed itself to reduce and eventually eliminate our reliance on the energy resources produced in Russia. And in that respect, that matters a lot for such a country, for such a resource-scarce country like Japan. What I have just said immediately means that we have to look for alternative source of natural gas. And that is, and Canada. Canada is the most viable, promising, and trustworthy candidate in that respect. And there are many Canadian and Japanese companies working very positively in that respect. That is only one example I'd like to refer to in the context of the building momentum between the Japan and Canada economic relationship. I'd like to refer another example in the context of the subject matter we are focusing on today. That is the building of battery supply chain. Last September, we concluded and signed the Memorandum of Cooperation with respect to specifically dedicated for building battery supply chain between two governments, Canada and Japan. And I'd like to hasten to add that it is the first occasion where the Japanese government signed a memorandum of cooperation with another government on that subject matter. And that ignited a large momentum among the Japanese companies. In a relatively short period of time after my arrival in Toronto, I have encountered a large number of Japanese corporate executives which pronounced their positive observation with respect that memorandum of cooperation. They encouraged very, very positively for making new or additional investment. And that kind of engagement is building on. And that is where we are now witnessing a large number of Japanese companies coming forward. And we are looking at the same picture, building a battery supply chain together. And I'd like to conclude my initial remarks by referring to the wonderful investment decision of Asahi Kasei, over $1.5 billion. That is absolutely fascinating and exciting. And that gives me a lot of opportunities to visit that part of the province, Niagara, including Port Colborne and also St. Catharines and Niagara upon the Lake. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. A strong foundation, great investment, and a great partnership for more investment to come, it sounds like, from what you said. And actually, you're taking us into, I think, the next thing we want to talk about here. You know, it's not just that we have the best salesperson in the world running, knocking on doors and having people really understand what we have to offer here in Ontario. It took a lot of effort. You heard the minister talk about all the work that was done, the details that were looked at, the policies that were put in place. And we want to talk a little bit more about those policies. Talk about what are these, how did these really, really change the game for us as a province to make investments? It's no secret that various levels of government have played a pivotal role in attracting these investments. This was made possible due to a number of key policies. So you heard the minister, reducing the cost of doing business, showcasing our highly skilled talent. I mean, we've got the best talent in the world. I hope you'll agree. We've got the best workforce. We make the best things, and we'll continue to make the best things in this province. We're building a leading edge supply chain. You're seeing not only the companies that we have established in this province that have been providing technology and products and components to vehicles globally for over 100 years. Now we have new companies that are coming and establishing themselves in this province to supply the future of the auto sector. We're building Ontario companies to do that too. How do these policies impact the global industry and drive the future of the auto sector? But can you talk a little bit about why these policies, and I'll start with you, why these policies were a key factor in helping you consider coming to Ontario?
Well, first, a key driver is the Memorandum of Cooperation, for sure. Understanding that the two governments are going to work together in building the supply chain and building out the ecosystem. Key part of gaining comfort as a Japanese company making this large of an investment. But then you have to get to where you're going. So the memorandum is a great start, but there's a lot of places in Canada. Right? So why here? And I think we talked about it a couple of times already, the ease of doing business, making it more cost effective to be here, the power situation and the access to green energy, the workforce, the university structure, All of those things give you not just a foundation for today, but then something to build and scale as we grow across multiple phases of investment. So the combination of those things are all key, but any place can change policy, right? So it's not just enough to have the memorandum. It's not just enough to change the policy. The people that do it, we are calling a new place home. So those things are all must-dos, but it's the people in the region, in Niagara, and that sort of micro part of the province that was the ultimate win for us. Everything else had to be there. Other places, frankly, had a number of those things, but they didn't have the top to bottom integration that we saw in Niagara, the alignment with everyone, business, government, partners, to make it a reality. So you have to do both to win consistently. And I think that's what we're seeing all across Ontario.
It's great to hear. Well, let's narrow into some partners in the Niagara region and talk a little bit about, from your perspective, you're already here, how did it get you into this FDI, into this partnership, and into this opportunity? What are the key points that really made this opportunity available to you and a reality?
I think, Sam, you said it best. It's about the people. There's no secret. This is by far the largest transaction that we as a family have been part of, and we're honored to be part of. Just want to say as well, we had been hosted in Japan, and we're, personally very impressed with the hospitality and that almost immediate connection around certain values. And so I'm, very impressed that at the end, as you say, it's policy, it's memorandums, but it really does come down to the human factor. The people in the room that you end up sitting with and transacting with, ultimately problem solving, because there is no question that a project of this size, Sam, we've already had to knock down a few hurdles. And I think you say that, a lot, hurdle after hurdle. This isn't a sprint, this is a marathon, and we're in a marathon together. And that stood out to me when I went to Japan to meet with the partners at Asahi Kasei. It very quickly dawned on me, we're not talking about a transaction. We're talking about a partnership. We're talking about a long-term relationship. And so to not aim for the quick win, but to see the long-term strategy, to build that out together, because I can't speak for Asahi Kasei, but I think that this investment is just the beginning of what they're going to be able to unpack and build in Port Colborne if all goes well. So to put a point on that, in the end, for me, a surprise how much it ends up being about the humans in the room to really make something happen. So we're very proud to be part of it. And like I said before, I think it's just the beginning of generational investment in Port Colborne with this project.
That's great to hear. The beginning, just the beginning, because it really is just the beginning. I want to go back to you, Consul-General. You talked a little bit about this partnership, this foundation. How do you see how our policies in this province have incentivized Japanese investment in Ontario? What do you think the key points are that we've done to support that initial MOU in order to make it easier for you to work with us to build this end-to-end EV supply chain, which you've delivered on and hopefully will continue to?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, of course, the Memorandum of Cooperation is the basis of our cooperation, and we just had a bilateral meeting on that subject matter only last week in Ottawa. That was a very, very good meeting. And I completely concur with other colleagues on the panel that there are many more other enablers, one of which being the excellent business environment this great province of Ontario offers, the easiness of doing business. And in that respect, one of the critical elements in that regard is the abundant endowment of the mineral resources in the context of the building supply battery supply chains. The so-called critical minerals is very, very essential and important. And I would like to commend all the efforts being made, both by the federal government and the provincial government in that respect. The exploitation and the refinement of these critical minerals is very, very important. And I'm very happy to say that there are positive development in that regard. And additionally, I'd like to also highlight the importance of the human resources. In that respect, I'd like to recall what Mr. Kubo, president of Asahi Kasei, referred to when he announced that big investment in Port Colborne. He referred to that initially the Canada was the destination of their envisaged investment, but increasingly, he said, they were becoming more and more aware of the enthusiasm of the Canada, Ontario, and also they were becoming more and more aware of the excellent human resources this country and that part of the country can offer to the company. And of course, as you may be aware, the province of Ontario is endowed with very huge cohort of excellent human resources. I recall in that respect, recently, Minister Fedeli mentioned about the great number of STEM graduates a year, 70,000. That is enormous. That is wonderful. I trust that is a very, very important element.
Yeah, I mean, you're correct. I mean, we talk a lot about our talent. That really is a commodity that we in Ontario have, amongst a lot of other things too. And I am going to take from you that tagline, Ontario is in the business of doing business. I really like that. So I'm going to start to use that. Let's get into, this is just the beginning. I think you said that this is, and I spoke with regional and local government officials before, that this is, let's keep the momentum going. Let's use this as a first of many more. How do we leverage this investment, this huge investment, this partnership to continue the momentum in the Niagara region? You know, this is the opportunity, what we have in this province, what we've done so far and will continue to do is this is the first time the whole province will be able to participate in the future of the auto sector, will be able to participate in the automotive industry of the future. And we really are leveraging the entire province. And Niagara is a big part of that now. And it's the beginning of what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do it. So how can we take this success, take the investment that has been made? How can Niagara ensure that they are poised to leverage the impacts of these investments, get more investments, build the ecosystem around it, and really, really, really be a major player in the global automotive sector as part of Ontario's role in the global automotive sector? Maybe I'll start with you at BMI, or I can go with Asahi Kasei.
Sure,
I mean,
sure, yeah. I mean,
you're a local, so you know.
In Niagara, the first thing back to Eric would be to make sure he never leaves.
Yeah, there you go.
I think, you know, to the point of this investment, what we've seen when we visited in Japan was the supply chain. So we haven't really even touched on that. I mean, there are opportunities, just direct spin-off opportunities that we are in discussions on. It's early days in terms of a place they need to be. And of course, they want to be close to Asahi Kasei. So that's a natural fit. So I think what Niagara can do is to continue to present that sort of team approach to, okay, who is it? What do they need? Power, water, sewer, land, and ensure that we're always wrapping that service around anybody that comes into that market.
Mobilize,
right? So respond quickly. You know, that's one of our, I think, an attribute, certainly that my brother Justice holds, is to be very aggressive. When there's an opportunity, jump on it, wrap a group around it and make sure they're well taken care of. And that sort of incubates that. So I think just we're just opening the door, making sure that as we move forward, we continue with that kind of a wraparound service, I think is essential. preparing lands, infrastructure ready. We call it ready stating at BMI, so making sure that when the decision is there to be made, all the things that they need are sort of answered and the boxes are checked, I think is essential. I mean, in a bigger sort of look, as I said earlier, I think connecting the mining sector to the and all of its critical minerals, we talk about the Ring of Fire a lot, is absolutely essential. And I think that, frankly, 10x's the opportunities that we have in this province. So making that connection, and of course the province is very busy in doing that. Certainly we at BMI are 100% invested in making that a reality.
And we're going to dig into that. Just on Asahi Kasei's perspective, so you're here now,
right,
for a while. And what do you think is the next step for the Niagara region to really leverage this impact that you've created, this investment, this opportunity, and what else can the region do to build on that in order to bring more around you?
Stay ready. These are big decisions that foreign companies have to have. It's in a place that's by definition foreign. So the more ready you are, the more prepared you are. Hey, welcome to Niagara. Here's 2 or 3 different sites. We know what you need. We're ready to go. We can have it at this point in time. That sort of white glove service that you have throughout the province, keep that focus, be ready to go. It is a scary decision to spend that much money in some place you just learned about.
But the best decision.
I think so. We made it. We're happy with it. But if you think about what's coming beyond, are you ready? Do you have a place? Oh, I'd love to follow Asahi Kasei into Niagara. Oh, well, you don't have land? You don't have infrastructure and power ready? Well, I guess I can't. So be ready. And if you're ready, the moment you'll be able to capture it.
Great. Well, I think the Niagara region's ready. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. I see everybody nodding over there.
I knew they'd.
There you go. And they're clapping too. There you go. So the chair said it's okay. So we'll stay ready. Niagara and Ontario. I want to go back to talking about critical minerals and the wealth of critical minerals in this province. It's certainly changed the game. Electrification is rapidly approaching. We've always built cars in Ontario. We will continue to build cars for 100 years to come. But it's different now because, as I said before, the entire province from north to south it's the first time that the entire province can participate in the automotive sector. And it's big. It's noticed globally. You heard the minister talk about our ranking in Canada, and as he mentioned, is Ontario. We were not even on the charts, which, if you think about it, made no sense because we got a lot of critical minerals. Now we're number 1. We're a subnational jurisdiction. We're number 1 beating out countries, which is fantastic. And with a winning team, as we all have seen, we will continue to beat out those other jurisdictions on that and work with great partners as well. And a large part of it to do with our critical minerals. And you touched on critical minerals and the supply chain. How can we bridge this abundance of critical minerals from Northern Ontario with the manufacturing strengths of Southern Ontario, which we know, to ensure that regions such as Niagara and others can benefit from this boom, sustain the influx of foreign investments that are essential to building a resilient EV battery ecosystem. How do we realize this opportunity, the opportunity that you have come here for, the opportunity to really bridge the North with the South, to make all of Ontario part of this, and to really leverage, and this is something that we've done in Oven for years and we'll continue to do, is really leverage our strengths regionally and make sure that we're coordinated provincially. And that's, I think, what BMI is here to leverage. All parts and all those ingredients that you talk about, they're scattered all across our province, and certainly the critical minerals. How do we work to make that a reality?
So I'll go first. I think stay selective. You're number 1. Everybody wants to be associated with winners. So being number 1, more will come because they want to be associated with number 1. Be selective in the people you support, bring on board. They have to be aligned with the way you want to operate as a province, culturally, be aligned with the environment, be aligned with the things that matter to people here, because you're going to have more than you can support. Choose wisely, continue to choose wisely, and make sure that people are aligned philosophically emotionally with what you want to get done within the region and within the province, because they're moving in. So make sure you like your new neighbors, make sure they're aligned with you, make sure they think about the world the way you think about the world and what matters and how to care for people and care for the environment. Those things will be really important, especially as you consider mining all the way through. How do you protect what you have and still leverage what you have? For me, I think would be one of the most important things to consider, because more people will knock on your door because you are number one, because you have a process, because you have these things. Make good choices.
And that'll keep us number one. Do you want to add a little bit more about this?
I'll pick up what Sam said earlier. Be ready. I think, provincially and on a federal level, we have lots of mining companies. We have the Ring of Fire. There's roads that have to be built. There's power lines that have to be built. We're going to go out of our way and have committed to, tens of millions of dollars of investment in the north to prepare properties, what we call a critical mineral hub, to support the entrants that will come in, so that we are ready when they knock on our door. And I think alignment in the province with the federal government, we had some great conversations as BMI here, and so thank you to the forum for setting up those exchanges, one in particular with the CIB, and just a wonderful chat about be ready, get the infrastructure built. And some view that, there's some risk there. What's going to happen? We're in a global environment. Lithium prices, for example, aren't where they need to be. There's some policy work that has to happen in and around that, is our view. But most importantly, make the investments now, because the tidal wave is coming. And if you're not ready, you'll lose your number one spot. So ready stating, that's our ethos at BMI. Be ready. I'm going to use that now. Thank you, Sam.
We're getting taglines from everybody here.
Yeah.
We've got a few minutes left, and maybe, just at the last thought, we're talking about what we've been able to accomplish here in this province in a very short period of time. We're talking about welcoming new friends, building strong partnerships, and growing our local companies, our local ecosystem economies, and then, of course, the province's economy. Maybe just go through all the panelists. If you have any final thoughts for the audience about where you see the opportunity to come. We talked about this in general, but let me wrap it up with this opportunity is generational. We are in it right now. You all see it from a different perspective, local, global, coming and now becoming local, and then, of course, great partners from another jurisdiction where we've formed a great relationship. Maybe you can kind of give a wrap-up thought of what is the opportunity to come, where do we need to go, and what do we need to do, and really how we keep Ontario number one.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be repetitive, but I think we've listed them. Back to our ethos: betterment, mobilization, impact. We stick to those core values. We remind ourselves of them every day. So always looking again to improve. I think the province needs to continue on. I'm always inspired by our Minister Fedeli. I mean, the champion that he is for this province is, well, he's number one, I would say. And so to support the government wherever we can, I think is critically important. Impact, we can't lose sight of impact. I think from, that perspective, stewardship is something that we talk a lot about. We also have an obligation to the world, to the global population, around how we manage that resource, how we go about the mining of that resource, ensuring that we're always protecting the environment. Because the one thing that I believe Ontario has more of than any other province, I would say, or country in the world, is fresh water. So you talk about the lakes and our ports, how important to protect those assets as well. So just to keep that in mind, because I believe, corporations are looking more and more into those areas. It's very, very important for us and the next generation. So, sticking to our ethos and ending it with be ready.
Ready?
I think the lead sled dog has the best view, and everyone wants to be the lead dog. Ontario is the lead dog. Mm-hmm. So that means you have a nice target. Everyone will emulate your processes. Everyone will try to mimic what you've done because it works. How you continue to innovate, where you choose to invest, how you choose to invest. It comes down to not being stagnant and continuing to be future-minded to capture what's out there. Be bold. The things that we've talked about in the last 6 years are bold. 0 to 44, 0 to number 1. That doesn't come easy, but that same playbook has to be modified because every other person is going, well, we can do that. Now, whether they can or cannot is a different question altogether, but the idea will be we want to be number 1. So how do you continue to evolve, think about the strategy? It is an unbelievably exciting time. The electrification of mobility is real. Whether or not it's on the timeline we think it's going to be on, it's real. There is no turning back. Grab the moment, continue to innovate, and stay number 1.
Yeah. Consul-General, final thoughts?
Thank you. Yes, for this great province of Ontario continues to be competitive. I think infrastructure, innovation, and people-to-people friendship. These 3 elements are most important in my humble view. And in all these 3 respects, I'm entirely optimistic. There is a vision with respect to the development of infrastructure, and there is a good potential, wonderful potential, I would say, with respect to the innovation. Ontario is a powerhouse in that respect. And lastly, the friendship. And in that respect, building on the good momentum we already have, we can further build on the friendship, including the relationship between the relevant municipalities and regional governments. And in that respect, I'm highly optimistic. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for the great discussion. Certainly the Niagara region's bold, Ontario is bold, and we have a plan to stay at the top spot and lead the automotive sector for generations to come. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you.